Having recently solved the case of the topless table, Sherlock Holmes and I once again found ourselves tackling a game topper mystery. In what I would come to call the case of the missing models, we learned that, envious of the success of the previous Game Topper campaign, the criminal masterminds Professor Moriarty and Irene Adler had entered into a conspiracy to thwart a new line of Game Topper materials. Inspector Lestrade approached us to explain that the famous artist and designer Ronald LaFleur had been engaged to create new designs for the portable gaming solution. In addition, he was developing an entire line of new accessories to improve the gaming experience, including a variety of play mats with gorgeous new artwork, storage solutions for these mats, and more. Before production could begin, LaFleur disappeared. In his initial interview with the foreman of the Game Topper factory, Holmes became suspicious that things were not all they seemed, and that the clever Professor Moriarty may have put his powers of disguise to work. A hunk of modeling wax discovered at the scene, and a conversation with a group of local ruffians led Holmes and I to Madame Broussard's waxworks, where we learned that Ronald LaFleur had a fondness for working with miniatures, a skill he no doubt put to use designing the new Game Topper dice towers and accessories. Madame Broussard reluctantly provided the great detective some samples of LaFleur's written plans, which Holmes brought along to our next stop, LaFleur's home and workshop. Arriving at the flat, we confirmed that no one had been in residence for some time. An envelope tucked beneath LaFleur's front door proved to be a bill from the nearby Hotel Alexander, a bill for lodging provided several nights previous. Now knowing that LaFleur must have been in hiding, Holmes led us to investigate the workshop at the rear of LaFleur's home. Peeking through the dusty windows, we spotted the high-quality materials upon which the new Game Topper tables and accessories were to be constructed. We also saw evidence of something only recently having been taken from the dusty work tables. This was strange, for we were told by the foreman that LaFleur had arranged a meeting with the owner of Game Topper Enterprises 2 nights ago, a meeting confirmed by the nearby toughs who had spied an altercation that evening. And yet, the workshop and bill proved that LaFleur had been gone at least a week. I could tell by the look in Holmes's eyes that the mystery was unraveling in his mind, but it took a further interview at the nearby Two Pegs pub to make things plain. There, we learned from the barman that LaFleur was in the habit of spending all day in his workshop, leaving only to take his evening meal at the pub. It was at this time that Holmes surmised that another of his nemeses was at work, Irene Adler. Having put the pieces together, Holmes brought Inspector Lestrade and I back to the scene of the crime. Stepping out onto a pier, he declared that there had been 2 crimes in play, and that in an attempt to steal the designs of the new Game Topper tables and accessory lines, Professor Moriarty and Irene Adler had each assumed the identities of Lord Berkton and Ronald LaFleur, respectively, assuming that between the 2 of them they would get their hands on the plans. The clever LaFleur, we learned, had sniffed them out. To thwart the criminals, he reproduced his prototype designs in the same modeling wax he was used to working in for Madame Broussard. In this very wax mold, he had secreted the paper plans for his accessories and playmats. And on the night that Adler and Moriarty were to meet to abscond with the plans, LaFleur had thrown the mold into the Thames in a fishing net. Safe from the criminal masterminds, the plans remained submerged, and LaFleur went into hiding. Moriarty and Adler, however, frustrated at their failure, ended their alliance. In desperate last hope, it was Moriarty himself, still in the guise of Lord Berkton, who summoned Inspector Lestrade to Game Topper Enterprises and lodged complaint of theft, assuming that Lestrade would summon my friend Sherlock Holmes, and Holmes would do Moriarty's work for him. Indeed, Holmes did discover the prototype and the plans, but he also discovered the conspiracy. As he revealed this to Lestrade and I, he drew the fishing net from the oily river to reveal LaFleur's work. only to learn that the wax mold did not survive the submersion intact. Days later, when, at Holmes's direction, Lestrade tracked down the missing designer and summoned the real Lord Burton, the group of us gathered to see what could be salvaged of the prototype. Far from a lost cause, as it turned out, Leflore was inspired by the broken mold, and was quickly able to use the two halves to create two entirely new game-topper designs. These the designer mischievously dubbed the Adler and the Moriarty. The designs saved, and Adler and Moriarty on the run. The next line of exciting game-topper products were soon on their way.